Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at foster care and adoption needs in Connecticut. My name is Jacqueline Ford. I have had the honor of working for the department for close to 30 years, and although I may be familiar with many of the topics I bring to you, I have invited experts in those fields to help dispel the myths and misconceptions that often act as barriers. Join us as we open our doors to an inside look at the Department of Children and Family. Melanie, Rick, and Luke, thank you so much for being on Doors to Hope and Healing. It's a pleasure to have all three of you on our set today. This is National Adoption Awareness Month, and what's wonderful about your story is that Luke has already been adopted, and we're talking today not only about your journey through adoption, but also about that post-adoption. You know, what happens after you adopt a child with DCF, and what services are available to you, and what other ways that you can help and give back. So we're going to start today by talking about when you first became licensed. So whether Melanie, whoever wants to answer the question, you're going to defer to your wife.
Of course, of course.
You're here for moral support.
Yeah, that's right.
So we became licensed in 2012, end of October 2012, so just about 10 years ago.
And were you interested in fostering and adopting? What was your purpose for coming forward?
We were interested, we were strictly foster parents, actually. We had 3 children already, so our intention was just to have children stay with us for a short time, help put families back together, which is how we started.
And how many children have you fostered? Do you keep a tally?
So Luke was our first placement, and we've had, I think, 23 or 24 children since then. Mostly babies, mostly young children.
Wow, you've touched the lives of so many children. That's
we love
wonderful. So tell me about this love story with Luke and how that all started. He was your foster child, and you were fostering him, and
so Luke was our first foster care placement, and the goal was reunification.
How old was he?
So he had literally just celebrated his 3rd birthday, literally like the day or 2 before he came to us. And the goal was reunification, and that continued to be the goal for some time.
3 years?
3 years. We thought it was going to happen. We thought it wasn't going to happen. So all along, he had visits with his birth mom, all through that process. And it became evident about close to 3 years into our journey that that wasn't going to happen. And it was at that time that it was made known to us that Luke, would become available for adoption. And of course, being that he had been with us so long, they posed the question to us, would he stay with our family? And of course, we made a family decision that Luke would stay, and he kind of completed our family. So, he was the fourth child, and we say completed our family. Of course, we don't ever really know, right? Who else we're gonna fall in love with, but. So he came in 2012, and his actual adoption was not until 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful story. And I think that, for our viewers that are watching, it's important to note that we want to empower parents and keep children with their families whenever possible to do so. And as in your family situation, your journey, there were many years where the mom was working on, her issues and trying to strengthen, her parental abilities to care for him, and it wasn't able to happen. And that's why we need wonderful families, foster families, to be in a situation where if the child cannot go home, that you're in a position to be able to keep them with you for forever. And another show that we just did with other guests, their story is a little different in the sense that the foster parents weren't able to keep that baby. They weren't in a position to adopt, but there was another family waiting who was able to adopt. And that's why I think it's important for our viewers to know that, whatever purpose you feel you can have in a child's life, to come forward. What message to somebody who is listening now would you say if they're watching and they're thinking, I think I may want to learn more about the department? What would you tell them to do?
Yeah, I would definitely tell them to do their homework, go to the classes. There's an informational session. You can start the classes. If you feel like it's a good fit, continue. If you don't, don't continue. But for us, I always knew that this was something that I wanted to do. Fortunately, my husband kind of, probably since I was 10 years old, honestly, as crazy as that sounds, that I knew that I would foster and adopt, and kind of pulled Rick on that road with me. But I would just tell people, don't be afraid to get the information. I think that first step is the hardest step, where you're thinking about it, to say, tell me more, let me learn more. And I would say, don't be afraid to take the first step.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate, the cultural issues that could possibly come up, and making certain that Luke knows about his heritage and about his culture? How did you navigate?
Yeah, so that's something that we kind of consistently work on. He doesn't, so obviously there's certain foods that he appreciates, so we make sure that he's able to enjoy those. We have friends that share his culture, so when he's visiting with them, he's able to have maybe things at their home and kind of share that culture. And we actually have kind of, not often, but we do have a continued relationship somewhat with his birth mother. Again, I would tell people that is not everybody's cup of tea, and I think that's completely understandable. I think that probably scares some people, but that is not something that has to be for everybody. But in our case, there's occasional phone calls, there's very occasional visits, but that's to our determination, really. So he, and my point was, he also, receives it from that end as well for his culture.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that when there is a transracial adoption, that it's important for a child to understand their heritage and their culture. And with our QPI, our Quality Parenting Initiative, we love when a foster family will work with a birth family, and if it's in that child's best interest for the birth mom to still be involved in their life, and it can be done safely, and it's always in the child's best interest. So I'm glad that Luke's mom has a window into his life that you can share information about him, and he can stay connected to her. So I know that you're still fostering, and you are providing supports to DCF beyond. I don't want to say just foster care, because that's such a huge commitment and so much love that you're offering, but you're also a buddy for KFAF, right?
Yes, both of us are. We both.
Yep.
Yeah.
So can you explain what KFAF is, because DCF is notorious for using all these initials to explain so many of the different facets of our work. Can you explain what KFAF is and what your role as a buddy is?
Sure. Take that?
Sure.
The Connecticut Association of Foster and Adopted Families. So we're assigned families that are just starting with the foster program. If they need any kind of support, most of them are newly licensed, and if they need support or anything like that, what's this about? We just, have them have us as a resource to call, text, email if they have any questions on anything like that.
And how long does a buddy stay involved with a newly licensed family?
6
typically
months.
6 months, yes.
Yeah, 6 months.
We do have families that we stay connected to following that, but our actual assignment is for 6 months.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you foster relationships with
You
these
do.
families that you're helping and developing friendships with them to stay
Absolutely.
involved.
Absolutely.
I think that it's valuable that you're able to share your experiences and encouragement and answer questions, because you've walked the walk.
Yep.
Yeah, and people do have a lot of questions. We find mostly that, people have questions about visitation and how long do things take, and is this normal? Is this something that would happen? And they're not necessarily questions that they would feel comfortable asking their worker, or so I think there's a bit of a comfort level just asking someone who's been through it, who's gone through the process.
Peer to peer.
Exactly. And certainly we're not experts, but we could just tell them what we've experienced.
And if we don't have the answer, sorry, we know where to go for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know how to navigate the system, because it takes time to understand the way that, it's a complicated, complex system. And Luke, you have been so quiet over there, and you are such a handsome young man. So tell our viewers, how old are you?
I'm 13.
You're 13 years old. And before we started, you were a little bit concerned about, the questions that we were going to ask you, because you wanted to make sure you had all the right answers. But like I shared with you, you know all the right answers because you know your life better than anybody knows your life, right?
Yes.
So tell me, what do you like to do? What are your favorite hobbies?
Well, I have a lot of activities that I do. I do choir, bell choir, cross country, basketball. I do
Tell me about flag football. Your brother will be
flag football.
Do flag football
Yes,
too?
and my brother is the coach. So
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah, it's
wonderful.
fun.
How does it feel to have your brother be the coach?
it kind of feels really good to be able just to come up to him and say, oh, I really wish that I could be a quarterback for a quarter or something. So
He gives you some opportunities, some extra TLC, extra tender loving care over there.
Yes.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And so tell me, if one of our viewers, because this show is going to reach a lot of different homes and a lot of people are going to watch our show. And there might be somebody who's watching who says, oh, 13 teenagers are really hard. I don't think that I could foster or adopt a teenager. What would you say to somebody who's watching the show and is thinking about being a foster or adoptive parent? What would be your advice from how you see things as a 13-year-old?
I think that it's really, if it's right for you, it's really important because there's really parents out there that need some help, and they could, be that, inspire.
Because not all children are adopted. There are many, many children that go into foster care and they go home. And I think that, if any of our viewers are watching and they see what an exceptional young man you are at 13, that they may be inclined to say, hey, I want to be a help. I want to help a family. And maybe if that child can't go home, I can provide them with a forever home. And I think that, you're an example of how loving a child and supporting a child unconditionally can raise, him or her to be, happy and healthy and successful. So I know that you've done open houses in your home. You've invited people into your home for an open house, which is that informational session that you spoke of earlier. What was that experience like to have an open house in your home?
That was great. I think we really enjoyed that. We had a few couples come. We had a few single people come. A supervisor from DCF came. She did most of the speaking. Our house was really just the host. We provided food and just hoped to make people feel comfortable. I think it was fantastic. And actually, one of the couples that came to our home, they're just in the process of adopting their second child through DCF. We actually have a work connection as well, and so that was such a wonderful story, and so fun to see that happen.
And did you invite the people? Did you, ask different people that you knew in the community, if you want to know more about, come to our home? Because
people always say to us when we have children or when we have little ones, I've always thought about doing that, or how do you get more involved? And so we said, we're going to show you. We're going to tell you how to get more involved. So come and hear the information straight from DCF.
And I think that being in a home environment is just a much more comfortable place to be, to ask those questions and to see how, a foster child in a home and they go to school, they don't wear a sign that says I'm a foster child. They integrate into your own communities, into your churches, into your school, your sports. And they're not identified as a foster child. And I think that by opening your home and showing that your home environment is this safe and loving place, and that you have GCF support because you have that social worker there who really facilitates the open house and can answer all of the GCF related questions, but you giving your input from the walk, you walk the walk every day, and no one can really share that better than a foster parent can.
Right, and I too think that some of the fears, people think, oh, my house isn't just right for this, or I don't have this, or my home isn't big enough, and I think that's a misconception. I think that obviously there's certain regulations and there's certain rules, but there's also ways to work within what your resources are to be able to be a foster parent. So I don't think people should hold that back either from trying to find information about if it's right for them.
And there's no perfect parent.
Right.
None of
Exactly.
us are perfect parents, and we're all learning and we're learning and growing as we parent.
Absolutely.
And I think that's an important thing for everyone who's watching to know as well. So we do have a program called the Adoption Assistance Program that's facilitated through UConn, and that's something that you didn't need to access, but it's available. And was that offered to you after you adopted Luke?
Absolutely. It was offered, and we went to actually our local DCF offices and our KFAF, as Rick was telling you about the KFAF, the Association for Foster and Adoptive Families. They have support groups. They have different trainings. One of the trainings yearly, I believe they do it yearly, is that someone comes from the Adoption Assistance Program and speaks to everyone, so that we're all made aware of what the resources are that are available. We were fortunate. We didn't really require any of those resources, but gosh, it was great to know that they were there and to be educated about them, for sure.
And it also did, there's so many myths and misconceptions, but it's also something that's important for families to know, that once DCF does close their case and they step away, which is, what you hope to happen. You want DCF to be out of your life when you're, raising your children and kind of living happily ever after. But it also can be frightening for some families who now feel like, I don't have that support. Right. So having the AAP, Adoption Assistance Program, makes some people feel, like you said, it was nice knowing it was there if I needed to access that. And that's available to you for many years. It's not just available to you on that year after you adopt. There are those trained professionals that are there to help. So as we get ready to close our show today, I know it goes by fast and there's so many more questions that we want to ask you. Is there anything that you would like to tell the viewers, or Luke, you would like to tell somebody who's watching about how it feels to be adopted by this wonderful family that you have?
I just kind of just look at it as, I don't really, like you said, I don't really go around and like, oh yeah, I was adopted, hey. Yes. I kind of just feel like it was right and it was kind of meant to be. So
you consider yourself a part of this family, and there's no need to label it that you're adopted, and you're absolutely right. There is no need to even consider yourself an adopted child, because you are loved just like your three siblings, right? There's three siblings.
Yep.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And what about the two of you? Before we close, is there anything that you would want our viewers to know? I think, going off of what you said about information, families ultimately have the last decision. They either move forward with the process, or they say it's not a good time for me. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't know. What do you think, Mel?
I would just say, for both of us, I think that it's the hardest, best thing we ever did.
Right.
Right? I mean, we've been doing it a long time, and we're getting older, obviously, and
better.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
Older and maybe a little wiser. Yeah. I don't know, but every time we kind of think, gee,
every foster kid?
It's hard.
Consider,
it's hard. It's hard when the intent is that these children go home. That's what we want for them. We don't intend to pursue, any adoptions, but of course you fall in love, and sometimes, which is how it's supposed to work, the children get reunited to the families, and kind of every time I'm like, I don't know, are we gonna do this again? And sure enough, that phone rings, and we can't ever say no, because it's just really our calling, I think, and like I said, it's the hardest, best thing we ever did. And I don't see, we've talked about it, but I don't see us ending,
Fostering.
anytime soon. I really don't. Yeah.
So the hardest, best thing. I love
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. And I think that's a good place for us to end. So if any of our viewers are interested in being a foster or adoptive parent, please call 1-888-KID-HERO. We're also going to show you a video now about the Adoption Assistance Program so that you can be aware of all of the supports that are offered to you post-adoption. Thank you for watching.
Building your family through adoption or guardianship is a lifelong process that brings great joy and personal growth, but can involve challenges for all involved. We understand that families may need support from time to time. Assessment and brief counseling, referrals, case management, information, and education.
Sometimes you feel a little isolated, one as an adoptee, but also as an adoptive parent. You don't recognize that there's other people out there whose children are struggling with the same things, and who other parents who are struggling to really understand their child. This is a wonderful program that can address all of that.
They are a wealth of information. They're understanding. They've been doing this for a long time. Nothing is new to them. Nothing surprises them. It's non-judgmental, and they have resources right at their fingertips.
For me, it was the ease of navigating, being able to have a level of comfort to just to be very transparent and open, and not to feel judged per se, and knowing that the person on the other end of the phone has the empathy and they're going to support the need or the reason why you're reaching out.
If you are an adoptive parent, I would absolutely recommend calling. They have all the information that you need, services available to them.
I would definitely recommend it anytime that you need that extra voice to kind of reach out to the program itself.
All you have to do is call the toll-free number. Somebody always picks up, and somebody gets back to you within 24 hours, with a plan to, move forward to help you.
Riverview Apartments is Bristol's two-time beautification award-winning residence community for adults age 55 and older. They offer 1 or 2 bedroom apartments with modern appliances, air conditioning, wall-to-wall carpet, and tiled floors. Both heat and hot water are included. Riverview also offers a wide range of activity rooms that include a billiard parlor and a spacious community room. It is handicap accessible with safe, secure parking for tenants and ample off-street parking for visitors. 860-940-6757 or riverviewbristol.com.